This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Well, I'm Josie Showalter, and I work here at Millcreek. I'm the Millcreek Business Council liaison, and the Millcreek Business Council is similar to a chamber of commerce, except we don't charge dues for people to join. And we want businesses to be able to come and interact with the city. And one of the areas that we want to interact with is to try and help people get resources for disasters and emergency preparedness. And so we've asked James Ray from Be Ready Utah to be able to present to us. James, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background on you, and then you can go ahead and start.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. So yeah, my name is James Ray. I work for the Utah Division of Emergency Management. So state government, all the things that the Division of Emergency Management provides in regards to business is free to be able to support the private sector in all of their initiatives. We have the Be Ready Utah program, and I'll show that here really soon, but I'm super excited to show you this information on evacuation and preparing for it. And I hope today's information will be insightful and useful for you. So just to start off, let's get to the root of why an organization's evacuation plans or business continuity plans may lack luster or maybe non-existent. Here are a couple of reality checks. First, it's not natural to spend time on something you hope never happens and money on something you hope you never need, right? Second, building a plan can be time consuming for small businesses who don't have the manpower or the knowledge to dedicate to it. Most businesses are steeped in just trying to keep their business afloat. Also, the everyday grind of life certainly has a psychological effect, causing us to not really think proactively. We find ourselves spending our time on what's directly calling for our attention. While disasters don't happen every day, the bills do. Additionally, of the many organizations that may have a written plan, most only go so far as to tick the box for compliance, but have not done it for reals, and oftentimes lack competence towards the plan as an organization as a whole. Even though some form of a plan is written, it remains largely untested and unknown throughout the organization and exists mostly as a dusty book on the shelf. These realities are some of the root causes for why so many organizations and individuals are not really prepared. But the fact of the matter is, disasters happen, Mother Nature still does its thing, technology fails, and bad people act in bad ways. And when disaster catches you unprepared, it hurts the business, the family, and the bottom line. And those things you have worked so hard to build can quickly vanish. Every year, emergencies take their toll on businesses and industry. These unplanned events can cause deaths or significant injuries to employees, customers, or the public. Businesses can limit the impact on their business from major interruptions that could disrupt normal operations. These interruptions could cause physical or environmental damage or threaten the facility's financial standing or public image. So for a new perspective, building a business continuity plan may be one of the more important things you could do for your business, and that includes evacuation plans. Having an evacuation plan and continuity plan in place ensures a company is in the best position to not only survive, but also to protect their reputation and minimize any financial impacts following a major disruption. All of the insurance to invest in, a business continuity program is the most valuable form of insurance. If you're going to invest in business continuity, then make sure you do it for reals. If you're not going to invest in business continuity, then your business is subject to the trash bin. The Be Ready Utah program can help you in your preparedness efforts. Be Ready Utah is the state's emergency preparedness campaign housed in the Utah Division of Emergency Management. Be Ready Utah wants every individual and family, school, business, and community to do these 4 actions to be prepared for any disaster or emergency. That is, be informed, make a plan, get a kit, and get involved. Within Be Ready Utah is the Be Ready Business program that focuses on the preparedness of Utah's private sector. And that's what I do on my day-to-day work. The Be Ready Business program provides the following free of charge. You can access business preparedness information and resources through the Be Ready Utah website, through the emails and social media. You can access business continuity planning, training, tools, templates, and consultation. You can connect with private sector preparedness councils, emergency managers, and subject matter experts. You can request many other training opportunities, such as active shooter preparedness, cybersecurity, stop the bleed, mental and emotional resilience, basic disaster response skills, and even this evacuation training. You can request security assessments for critical infrastructure through the public-private partnership program, such as cybersecurity assessments, site security assessments, and supply chain assessments. And your organization can be recognized for its preparedness through the Be Ready Utah recognition program. Connect with the Be Ready Business conversation by subscribing to receive private sector preparedness related emails. You can subscribe directly at bit.ly.brb emails or through the Be Ready Utah website. There's the short link right there you can see. You can also access a calendar of private sector preparedness related events. There's the short link right there, as well as accessing that on the Be Ready Utah website. And you can also follow hashtag Be Ready Business on the Be Ready Utah Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. Additionally, the Be Ready Utah Pinterest page has many Pinterest boards with business-related preparedness resources and ideas. And the Be Ready Utah YouTube channel has many videos that the private sector can use to promote preparedness and train employees on many preparedness topics. So check out the Be Ready Business playlist on YouTube. Fulfilling the preparedness criteria for the Be Ready Business recognition program helps your business build a business continuity plan and act according to that plan. Being ready has great economic value in disaster strikes. As such, businesses that fulfill the criteria are rewarded with the following: a custom Be Ready logo with your company name on it. This could be used on your websites, printed materials, and other outreach. You can use this logo to build community trust and to tell others about your achievement. An official certificate of recognition. The certificate may be shown to those who may grant you financial breaks because of your achievement. For example, you could negotiate with insurance agencies that might provide a discount on your insurance, or with chambers of commerce that might provide discounts on membership, or preparedness vendors that might provide discounts on their products, etc. You know, the sky's the limit. You will also be recognized on the Be Ready Utah website and social media. So go to bereadyutah.gov to access the recognition criteria. Preparing means being informed, having a plan, having a kit with the things you need, and getting involved. Before an evacuation ever occurs, it is important that individuals are informed about the hazards that could cause an evacuation and be informed about the plans and actions to take in the event an evacuation is necessary. Each individual should also have a kit or supplies they can easily grab and bring with them. When your workplace does evacuation drills, get involved by participating in the drills and purposefully becoming familiar with the actions to take. Also, get involved by providing insight or feedback on existing plans. It is especially important for plans to include considerations for those with any access or functional needs. Individuals and families may have to evacuate out of their home or out of their neighborhood or town or out of their place of work. Here are some considerations for individuals and families to prepare for evacuation. Before disaster strikes, know the names of the roads and highways where you live. Consider asking the city where you live or work or visit what their evacuation routes are, and ask your workplace what its evacuation plans are. And if you don't have a plan for evacuating out of your home, start one today and make sure each member of the home understands it. Always keep the gas tank in your vehicle at least half full. When towns ask their residents to evacuate, you may find yourself in stop and go traffic on the highway for many hours. In many evacuation case studies, there are reports of vehicles left stranded on the road because they ran out of gas. It will also be important to keep the company vehicle gas tanks at least half full. While at home or work, decide now what that one item is that you can't live without. This will help you start assembling your disaster supply kit that you may need to grab and go with. Start making a list of 16 items that you will need to grab in an evacuation, and be sure to get a bag that you are able to carry them in. The disaster supply kit list on bereadyutah.gov website may help you think of items to consider for your kit. Also, consider the needs of anyone with access and functional needs, as well as your neighbors and your pets. During the evacuation, be flexible and follow instructions. Situations may change and you may be asked to move areas several times. Also, be patient. Evacuations take as little as 15 minutes to as much as several hours, depending on the situation. Mass community evacuations can take a very long time. There have been times when individuals evacuate their homes or employees evacuate their workplace and never re-enter it again. Be sure to take your disaster supply kit with you, as what you have in your kit may be the only thing you have to cover your needs. You may not have time to grab everything on your evacuation list. When it comes time to evacuate, leave immediately. Don't hesitate. That may make the difference between life and death. Evacuation is a great protective action that you may need to take for many reasons, such as fires, earthquakes, hazardous material release, active shooter, bomb threat, etc. When you create an evacuation plan, it's usually useful for any type of emergency, though there may be a few specific considerations for different types of emergencies. The Evacuation Behavior and Problems Report conducted by the Disaster Research Center at Ohio State University shows that there is poor organizational preparedness for initiating and conducting mass evacuation efforts in the natural and technological disasters that occur in peacetime America. The report says that this partly reflects a failure to treat evacuation as a major policy issue and a tendency to view it mostly as a secondary reaction to other disaster activities. If your workplace, school, home, or other facilities you spend a lot of time in already has an evacuation plan, then the big question is, do you know what the plan is? Does the newly hired employee know the plan? Does the low man on the totem pole know what the plan is? If not, then the facility may need to do a better job of educating If you don't have a plan, or if the plan is only half made, then now is the time to start or complete your plan and teach others what the plan is and practice it. Consider where you're at right now, or places you may spend most of your time, and start making a plan on how to escape or evacuate the area. Can you evacuate right now? If so, what are your escape route options? What would you take with you? Consider a grab and go kit for your home and office. How long could you be gone? And where's the assembly area? The key elements of evacuation preparedness includes an early warning, typically through an alarm or voice communication system, as well as adequate means of egress or exit routes, and occupant familiarity with the plan through knowledge and practice. Collaborate with neighboring businesses and building owners to avoid confusion or gridlock. Promote evacuation of employees requires a warning system, or prompt evacuation of employees requires a warning system that can be heard throughout the building. Test your fire alarm system to determine if it can be heard by all employees. If there is no fire alarm system, use a public address system, air horns, or other means to warn everybody to evacuate. Sound the evacuation signal during planned drills so employees are familiar with the sound. Plan for a primary and an alternate means to notify occupants of an emergency. Also, plan a primary and alternate means to report the emergency to response organizations. Identify who shuts down critical operations and locks doors. Make sure the individual identified knows their responsibility. Appoint an evacuation team leader and assign employees to direct evacuation of the building. Assign at least one person to each floor to act as a floor warden to direct employees to the nearest safe exit. Assign a backup in case the floor warden is not available, or if the size of the floor is very large. Ask employees if they would need any special assistance evacuating or moving to shelter. Assign a buddy or aide to assist persons with disabilities during an emergency. Contact the fire department to develop a plan to evacuate persons with disabilities. Have a list of employees and maintain a visitor log at the front desk, reception area, or main office area. Assign someone to take the list to the assembly area when the building is evacuated. Use the lists to account for everyone and inform the fire department whether everyone has been accounted for. When employees are evacuated from a building, OSHA regulations require an accounting to ensure that everyone has gotten out safely. A fire, chemical spill, or other hazard may block an exit, so make sure the evacuation team can direct employees to an alternate safe exit. Make an evacuation map for each floor or area that designates primary and secondary evacuation routes. The assembly area should also be identified on the map. Make sure the map orientation is clear. Is it easy to identify the front of the building on the map? Other important items to put on the map are locations of the pull alarms, fire extinguishers, and safe areas. Make sure that there are sufficient exits available at all times. Check to see that there are at least 2 exits from hazardous areas on every floor of every building. Building or fire codes may require more exits for larger buildings. Walk around the building and verify that exits are marked with exit signs and there is sufficient lighting so people can safely travel to an exit. If you find anything that blocks an exit, have it removed. Enter every stairwell, walk down the stairs, open the exit door to the outside, continue walking until you reach a safe place away from the building. Consider using this safe place as an assembly area for evacuees. and consider an alternate assembly area if the primary area becomes no longer safe to be at. So unfortunately, we're all more like ostriches than we think. There is a psychological challenge that emergency preparedness poses. Every day we don't have a disaster reaffirms to the mind that nothing is ever going to happen. The human mind subconsciously says that the disaster won't happen. And if it does happen, then it won't happen to me. And if it does happen and it does impact me, then it won't be that bad. And if it does happen and it does impact me and it is that bad, then there's nothing I can do about it. The fact of the matter is, disasters happen. It's just a matter of time. And you are fully capable of doing something about it. Be informed, make a plan, get a kit, and get involved. Milling refers to information-seeking behavior following a warning. For example, by searching on other channels and exchanging information with others, which leads to a time delay and further protective measures not being initiated immediately. After the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center, many survivors remembered the last time they saw their now deceased coworkers, saying that their coworkers were milling around their office space looking for something, or on the computer looking for more information on what was happening and not immediately evacuating. Many people die in emergencies because of a lack of immediate action following a warning. So why don't people often act immediately when receiving a warning? A research report titled Milling and Emergency Notifications by Wood et al. 2018 describes the following overall process. First, people receive information about an imminent threat in a warning message that creates uncertainty. Second, they interact with others searching for additional information, for example, milling, to make sense of the uncertain situation. Third, the result of the interaction is a revised definition of the circumstances in which they find themselves. And then fourth, they initiate self-protective behavior based on that socially generated construction. These are the shifts in people's thoughts after receiving warnings. Their understanding or the meaning of the warning shifts. Their belief toward the content of the warning shifts. The way they personalize the risk shifts. And their decision on what to do about the risk shifts. So how do you get individuals to stop milling and get to the action step more quickly? Maletti and Peak in 2000 and Wood et al. In 2018 outlined 5 components that will help individuals move more quickly through the need for more information. When communicating or sending an emergency notification, the notification should include the following: a statement that identifies the emergency. Second, the location of the emergency. Third, what to do to protect oneself from the emergency. In other words, a protective action recommendation. Fourth, information that conveys the time individuals have to take protective actions. And then fifth, the source of warning to convey credibility. So is this just coming from Joe in the next door cubicle, or is this coming from the boss, right? Regarding evacuations, the imagination might contrive a visual similar to the one just shown. But for the most part, individuals participate in evacuations calmly and seek and follow directions. The best and only influence you have over the outcomes is through training and the directions you provide. Contrary to perceived fears, the Evacuation Behavior and Problems Report conducted by the Disaster Research Center at Ohio State University shows that evacuation flight normally proceeds well, and that evacuation takes a proactive and group form. Most evacuations take the form of either informal or formal group movement, rather than flights by individuals. Rather than freaking out, evacuations are typically calm and orderly, and individuals are usually willing to comply with clear directions. People pay most attention to and are most influenced by other people, especially when they seek confirmation of warnings of personal danger. People tend to reflect the calm shown by the others around them. Having level-headed leaders certainly helps. When leaders keep level heads, their peers tend to follow suit. But also be prepared for individuals to act in their own way. Self-determination or self-governance is a very important aspect of life and not something you can easily control or change. Humans will often act in the best way they know how to protect themselves. Such actions may not directly align with a specified procedure or in a way you think it should. The best way to mitigate against any incorrect, though well-intended action is through training. If you have not trained, then individuals cannot be expected to follow some specific procedure or be easily directed. Teach them what to do and then be prepared for them to govern their own actions. There are only two things you can control: the training provided before the event and the clear directions provided during the event. Here is a link to an evacuation plan template that can help as a starting point. This is editable, so you can tailor it to meet your needs. And by the way, I know Josie is going to be sharing the link to these slides with you. You may be able to see them in the chat. If you don't see them in the chat, then maybe Josie can repost it. I know sometimes people come in later and you can't see the most recent chat. So you can have access to these slides, review them, click on them even after this is all done. What is included in an emergency evacuation plan? At a minimum, your evacuation plan should include the primary method for reporting incidents and the evacuation policy or procedure for escaping, with route assignments on floor plans, a workplace map, and safe or refuge areas. Your plan should also include emergency contact information with the names, titles, departments, and telephone numbers of individuals both within and outside the company to contact for additional information or explanation of duties and responsibilities under the emergency plan. Your plan will also need the procedures for employees who remain to perform or shut down the critical operations before evacuating, as well as rescue and medical duties for any workers designated to perform them. After you have evacuated, you may not be able to re-enter the facility for some time. As such, you may need to communicate with customers, vendors, employees, and others. Having a pre-identified alternate site for a communication center will be helpful to perform such communication needs. More details on this is described in the business continuity planning training in the communications unit, where crisis communications and making a communications and information center is explained. Additionally, when evacuations happen, you may not be able to grab all of your vital records. As such, it may be important to identify a secure on-site and off-site location to store original or duplicate copies of accounting records, legal documents, employee emergency contact lists, and other vital records. More on protecting vital records is provided in the business continuity planning training in the unit on vital records protection. How do you alert employees to evacuate? When you provide the alert, did the intended audience actually get or receive the alert? Sometimes you may think you sent or initiated the alert, but later find out the communication was never received. Confirmation that the alert or message was received is very important. The best way to confirm it's working as intended is through testing the system and receiving feedback. Also, when you send the alert or message, what was the perceived message versus the intended message. Alerts or messages can be misinterpreted or perceived differently than you might intend. The best way to mitigate any misunderstanding is through training. It's important to include how to alert those with special needs. Those with special needs may be an employee or someone visiting your facility. Your alert for evacuation should be a distinctive alarm that can be understood by anyone. Alarms should be able to be seen as well as heard. It's also important that your plan includes a procedure for notifying law enforcement or the fire department and others. Your evacuation policy and procedure should include evacuation triggers or the condition that would warrant an evacuation. It should also include a clear chain of command and designees that have the responsibility and authority to order an evacuation. It should clearly show the evacuation routes, what should be posted in the evacuation routes, the procedures for those with special needs, and a system for the accountability of employees and visitors after the evacuation. An evacuation should be called anytime a local official or professional responder directs you to. You should call for an evacuation if there's a fire. There may be instances when it's not safe to evacuate, such as with the hazardous material release or other situations. Calling for an evacuation may also depend on the building type and situation. For example, buildings built to modern building codes might not need to call for an evacuation in a small earthquake. However, the same small earthquake for an old building that is not built to modern codes may be more susceptible to collapse, whether that is structural collapse or in facade or non-structural collapse. In general, anytime it is unsafe to be in the facility or area may be a time to call for an evacuation. When reporting an emergency, it's important to do so as quickly as possible. Time is critical. Knowing the procedures in advance will help you report as rapidly as possible. When reporting an emergency, you'll need to use the best available means of communication. There are 3 types of evacuation methods to consider: total evacuation, staged evacuation, or relocating to a safe area within the building. And if you cannot evacuate, then a 4th option is defending or protecting yourself in place. Total evacuation is where every floor is evacuated and every route of escape is used. When the alarm is sounded, every floor fully evacuates. Staged evacuation is where evacuations happen in stages, or in other words, where floors take turns so as to not overwhelm the evacuation corridors, or to allow professional responders that have to use the stairwells better access to the emergency situation. Limited evacuation may only include the floor affected, or maybe even the floor immediately above and below. This may happen in buildings that are protected with automatic sprinklers in the case of a fire-related evacuation. However, there may be other reasons to do a limited evacuation, like a hazardous material situation or other incident that may only affect a single floor. Relocation includes going to a designated relocation area or an area of refuge within the building as a temporary staging area that provides relative safety while the situation is being assessed. Decisions are made and mitigation activities are begun. In this instance, occupants don't have to evacuate out of the building, but rather evacuate to a different floor or area that is considered safe. Again, this may happen in buildings that are protected with automatic sprinklers or in case of a fire-related evacuation, or for other reasons like hazardous materials or things that affect a single floor. In active shooter events, you may evacuate to a temporary site or rally point as designated by the yellow dot on the map. Or you'll notice that law enforcement and emergency medical services will often meet you at the temporary rally points. Once you are cleared to do so, you may be directed then to move or relocate to a designated location called a reunification center. or a place to take final accountability and make sure individuals get reunified with their loved ones or with their workforce. The green square on the map is an example of this reunification center you might be relocated to. Notice on the map that the reunification center is not the same as the temporary rally points and is far enough away from the incident to be a safe place. Planning these elements will necessitate discussing these with the organizations near the places you plan to evacuate or relocate to. Now, what procedures should be applied for people in a wheelchair or with other disabilities that affect mobility? Able-bodied as well as disabled occupants must be covered under any written procedures. If your floor has to be evacuated, individuals in wheelchairs or with other mobility issues should plan to horizontally relocate to a refuge area. In buildings with automatic fire sprinkler protection, this may simply be to an adjacent compartment or office space. In other cases, your building may be provided with areas of refuge. These spaces may be located as standalone barriered compartments on the floor, or they may consist of oversized landings in stairwells. Regardless of which feature you have, your plan includes waiting in one of the designated spaces until fire department personnel can remove you. Oftentimes, these spaces are provided with a two-way communication device, so you can give rescue personnel your location. Your work environment may also supplement this procedure with a buddy system. In this case, you need to anticipate situations where the buddy may not be available in an emergency. In every case, and regardless of one's abilities, if you have any questions about your building's plan or how you fit into it, you should ask your employer for detailed information and request a role for those with disabilities in crafting the plan. An area of refuge is a temporary relocation area that provides relative safety while the situation is being assessed. Decisions are made and mitigation plans activities are begun. In this instance, occupants don't have to evacuate out of the building, or perhaps cannot evacuate. For example, a wheelchair cannot go down steps, and use of the elevator is unsafe, and the structure does not have a means to transport such to another level, like a stair chair. So the individual will go to the designated area of refuge, perhaps with a buddy, and notify professional responders of their location and wait. There may be instances when you cannot evacuate, or when the situation is better to not evacuate, but rather to seek an internal space where you can defend or protect yourself. This may happen to those with disabilities that cannot escape, or where there is not a designated area of refuge. This may happen to individuals when the routes of escape are blocked, rendering evacuation impossible. Individuals in this case may seek a room where they can seal off ventilation to protect themselves from smoke, or in the event of a hazardous materials release, or in nuclear or radiological event. This may also happen as a means to hide from an active shooter. In either case, you will need to alert the professional responders of your location and be prepared to wait. More on sheltering is discussed in the sheltering training, which is a separate training. Where are your exits? It's important to know the location of emergency exits in your building. Your evacuation map should clearly communicate the emergency exits. The principles of exit safety include having at least 2 ways out of every floor or area, making sure the exit of choice is within a reasonable travel distance. Do not compromise fire protection and alarm systems. Promptly report problems with exits or systems to building management. And be sure to provide evacuation training and drills to occupants. Making sure egress paths are well marked, well lighted, and unobstructed. This includes keeping exits clear and making sure there's no storage or other use within the exit. The corridor should be wide enough to support an increased volume of people evacuating through them. And the evacuation routes should be safe to use for all evacuees. And then be sure to collaborate with neighboring businesses and building owners to avoid confusion or gridlock. Research indicates that it takes a normal individual about 15 seconds per floor to travel downstairs in an evacuation. In a high-rise structure, this can result in relatively long travel times to reach the ground floor. Evacuations are slowed by individuals who are not physically capable of this effort, as well as people falling or tripping and individuals who become confused within the stair. Realize that a complete evacuation may require a significant amount of time, and evacuation from large buildings can be physically exhausting. Large numbers of occupants filling the stairs can also impede emergency responders attempting to reach the emergency using the stairways. Large buildings may use staged evacuations in an attempt to deal with this problem. Someone should be designated the responsibility of grabbing the evacuation go box and securing a roster of everyone in the facility so you can do a head count. When everyone has evacuated to the designated assembly area, you will need to have someone be responsible for performing the roll call. A common title for this is the assembly area leader. You might assign all or part of these responsibilities to one person or to multiple persons. Your evacuation plan should identify who is in charge of these actions, as well as include alternates to do these actions if the primary is unavailable. Someone, likely the assembly area leader or another designated person, should be assigned the responsibility of grabbing the evacuation go box. It's recommended that the box be some form of fireproof and waterproof secure container. In either case, it should be easy to grab and go with. Here's a list of some ideas to consider putting into the evacuation go box. You can kind of see that list. And with the link that Josie will send you as well, you can revisit the list as well. Here's a continuation of the list. Understand that there are certain documents that are required for SBA disaster loans or other assistance that might become available. Depending on if you're a corporation or a partnership or affiliate or a proprietorship, they have different tax return requirements that are associated with that. There may be other things to consider, including in your evacuation go box. Consult with your team on what items are needed for your business specific needs and considerations. In order to conduct employee accountability, you'll need a designated assembly area and an alternate or expanded location for more space if the situation warrants moving from the primary location. You also need a sign-in, sign-out record for your workplace. You'll use that sign-in record as a roll call at the assembly area. If you don't have the sign-in record, then you should at least do a head count. Consider creating a method for accountability of suppliers and customers, as an incident can occur while they're within or near the facility or area. When the accountability process shows that someone is missing, then you have to assume someone is still inside the facility. In such instances, do not try to re-enter the facility to find them, but rather report such to the professional when they arrive. If the individual is not found in the facility, then you may need to search for them in other ways to confirm that if they're safe and accounted for. If you cannot find the individual, then a missing persons report may need to be filed to the authorities. As more people are working from home, employee accountability becomes ever more important. Your actual evacuation protocols or procedures will most likely be the same, regardless if more staff are working from home. People in the office will still need to be notified and to follow the recommended routes and meet at the designated staging area and perform a roll call. What is important in evacuations with our new hybrid schedules is knowing exactly who is working in the office on any given day at any given moment. Hybrid schedules allow for flexible schedules, and those schedules may also vary from day to day or week to week. One key to successful evacuation is an accurate accountability system. What method do you have of identifying who is working in the office, who is working at home, and who may be working elsewhere in the event of an evacuation? That way, you can take accountability and quickly identify if somebody is still inside the building who may need rescue or assistance, if that person is working safely at home, or if the person's working at home. Part of ensuring accountability, accurate accountability, is requiring all employees to keep your accountability system up to date. Make sure they sign in and sign out regularly as needed. Your sign in, sign out system will need to accurately reflect who is in the workplace at any given moment. Another piece of a successful evacuation is to have people, more than one person if necessary, that will be expected or assigned to be in the office every day, and who will be responsible for managing the accountability system and taking accountability at the staging area following an evacuation. Designate a backup for this role as well. It is also important to have a trusted and tested notification system, which includes all employees. These should include some type of alert system in the building and notification systems on personal communication devices, and then have redundant or backup notification plans. Lastly, there may be other considerations. You'll want to have an updated telephone calling tree system or a check-in policy. So everyone from the agency, whether or not they are working in the office on a given day, will check in with their supervisor upon notification of an emergency. After an evacuation, professional responders may not be available to help, and you may find yourself on your own for some time and may need to rely on the skills of those around you to help each other. You can possibly utilize a needs and capability survey to find out who has what skills. Evacuation is more than simply exiting or withdrawing from the facility or area. It involves an incident, then a creation and dissemination of a message or warning, the individuals receiving the warning and then interpreting the warning and acting accordingly. There's the exit process, then sheltering or where to go in the meantime. And then there's the return process. Once everyone has exited the area, what do they do now? If it's raining or snowing or extremely cold or hot, they may need to seek shelter instead of remaining outside. Consider making a sheltering plan for your workforce. More training on sheltering planning is provided in the business continuity planning training. Evacuations also have a tendency to separate people. You may need to develop a reunification plan to consider ways to help individuals get reunified with their families or even reunified with the workforce. There's more training on that in the business continuity planning training as well. Evacuation is not a one direction event. Rather, it is usually a round trip. What goes out usually goes back in once safe and cleared to do so. Reconstituting the workspace is the act of going back in and getting things started again. But sometimes it's not that easy and needs an organized approach to reconstitute the workplace. Whoever turned off the operations must now turn it back on, and depending on the business, we'll need to follow some strict procedures for turning everything back on. Sometimes you're cleared to go back in, but now everything doesn't work exactly like it used to. Some instances render the evacuation as a long-term or even permanent event. In long-term instances, you may need to find an alternate site and relocate to that site to continue work until the original site is made available again. In some cases, operations within the evacuated facility cannot simply be moved, and a business may need to devolve its operations to another organization. Devolution is when you transfer authority and responsibility from an organization's primary operating staff and facilities to other designated staff and alternate locations to sustain essential functions. There's more details and training available on those topics as well in the business continuity planning training. I'm going to skip a few of these questions really quick and get to this, the final recommendations. The following general recommendations to improve evacuation plans comes from the Evacuation Behavior and Problems Report conducted by the Disaster Research Center at Ohio State University. Evacuation should be approached as a proactive policy matter. Typically, evacuation is not considered a basic policy issue, but is treated primarily as a response to warning activities or to impact. Treating evacuation as a matter of basic policy is the only way to ensure that it will receive the explicit attention it merits and that all facets of the process are systematically addressed. Planning should visualize evacuation as a flow process with different emergent stages involving various kinds of contingencies. There's a need to consider different issues and possible problems at various points in the evacuation process. For example, how might seasonal changes impact evacuation plans? Or what if a particular resource is not available? How do you confirm the hazard or even confirm that the warning was received? And then third, evacuation is not merely a movement away from danger. Also, withdrawing or exiting is not necessarily the most problematic stage of evacuation. Operational personnel should consider the full range of patterns of behavior that are involved in evacuation, from the warning to the withdrawal or exit from the facility or area, to the shelter and to the return stage. There's some questions there. That wraps up my presentation. I want to give a moment to any questions unless I have officially run out of time. So Josie, back to you.
All right. Well, if you want to quickly go through a few things, we can keep the recording going, and then if people need to leave, they can, but we can keep the recording moving. I'm good for another few minutes. So is there a few more things that you want to go over?
Let's go with some. Are there any particular questions that were posed?
I don't see any questions in the chat, but if people want to unmute and ask, they're welcome to unmute and ask.
Okay. In the meantime, there are some questions here. There's a list of questions that could be gone through. One is our high-rise building evacuations different from other buildings? The answer to that is that multiple floors of high-rise building create a cumulative effect of requiring great numbers of persons to travel great vertical distances on stairs in order to evacuate the building. In the evacuation of the World Trade Center, high-rise office towers following the terrorist bombing in 1993, the tens of thousands of building occupants successfully and safely traversed some 5 million individual flights of stairs. The physical demands made on occupants often exceed the capabilities of many. In addition, the process of evacuating some of the largest high-rise buildings in the world may take upwards of 2 hours. The fire and life safety systems installed in high-rise buildings today include automatic fire sprinkler protection, are designed to control a fire and therefore lessen the need to evacuate all occupants. In a typical scenario, the occupants of the fire floor and the floors immediately above and below it should be immediately use the exit stairways to descend a floor level that is at least several floors below the fire floor, and then await for further instructions from safety officials. So hopefully that answers that question. Is there a particular one of these questions that might be of interest to you? There's, are building owners or operators required to hold regular emergency drills? Short answer to that is the NFPA 101 Life Safety Code does require that workplaces, healthcare facilities, educational institutions, and other occupancies provide evacuation relocation plan information and routinely schedule and hold drills when practicable. If stair travel is potentially dangerous, are there alternatives? One particular thing was, should I go onto the roof and wait? The answer to that is no. Many of us have seen dramatic videos of helicopters picking up occupants from the roof of a burning building. That's an extraordinarily dangerous process for the occupants and the pilots and the firefighters who may be in the building. First, a helicopter may not come to rescue you. Thus, ascending to the roof instead of descending to grade may have wasted valuable time. This is not a standard procedure in the United States or in most foreign countries. In severe fires, the large thermal currents generated by the heat from the fire can cause the helicopter to be buffeted up or down, making it hard to control. The resulting down thrust from the helicopter rotor can force smoke and superheated air on top of the fire suppression personnel. Most building designs incorporate numerous features that direct occupants to the street or grade level for evacuation purposes. So in general, you don't use the elevators, but there are certain circumstances in the life safety code where you could potentially use the elevators. If another question is, if I stay and then the situation becomes untenable and then trapped, should I break a window and should I jump? If you're trapped in a high-rise building, try to locate yourself in an area where you can close the door, seal the cracks to keep smoke out, use a telephone to call fire department and report your exact location in the building. Try to be patient. Emergency rescue of high-rise building occupants can take a long time. You can signal your position to rescue personnel from a window using a light-colored cloth, but it's not advisable to break a window. If you can open the window slightly, it is generally safe to do so to allow fresh air in, but be prepared to close it if smoke comes in. A broken window cannot be adjusted to block smoke from pouring in. Finally, falling glass from a broken window can sever fire hoses and severely injure rescue and suppression personnel below. It is very dangerous to use a window for escaping from anything higher than a second floor. If your neighbor's building is on fire, should you have to be evacuated? No, but stay vigilant and follow the directions of the professionals. Usually there's enough time in those kind of instances where they'll be like, hey, yeah, you should get out, or no, we've got everything under control.
All right, James, I think I've got to head out to another meeting.
All right.
But I think this was fantastic, and thank you so much for doing this for us. I'm going to end the recording now.